It's Patio Side Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers with tips and advice on landscaping and gardening. Here's Fernando Martinez.
Yes, indeed. This is the place to be. Glad you could join us today. I got another great show here lined up for you. Today's topic is water features. What types of water features are there? What are the pluses and minuses of having a water feature? What about algae? How do you treat the water? And what do you have to do to maintain water features? So that's what I want to talk about today. I really truly believe that every place, unless you just don't like the sound of water, but I think to most people, and certainly myself, I love the sound of soothing water, running, bubbling, and just overall giving you that atmosphere. It really can take a nice landscape and turn it into something very special. That's why they call them features. You know, there's a lot of, that word gets thrown out a lot, water feature, fire feature, lighting feature, whatever. You can really feature something. And with water, it's pretty simple. Now, I'm not talking about fountains. I want to make a distinction right away between fountains and water features. Fountains are great if, they're simple. You can buy them, have them delivered to your house and, fill them up with water and turn them on, and they can work for a little while. But the biggest distinction is that the amount of water that usually is in a fountain is pretty small. I mean, there's different types of fountains out there, obviously, but the most common fountains that I see in landscapes and gardens are pretty small. The pumps are really small, and they can be hard to get to. The tubing, you're trying to get it up through small little holes, and you're trying to stack maybe 2 or 3 layers of these concrete bowls on top of each other and a pedestal, and you're trying to level it. I personally have not had really good luck with fountains. I don't like them. I think if that's the only way to get a water feature that you can do, of course, I'd rather hear the sound of water than not hear it. But I want you to have a great experience with your water feature, and that's how, the whole point of this show and my theories in landscaping is to make things simple, easy, carefree. Everybody wants low maintenance. You don't want a high maintenance water feature where you're cleaning it out all the time. If it's running out of water quickly because there's not enough water in there, the pumps go out, pretty readily because they're really small, tiny, cheap pumps. So those are kind of I wanted to get that out of the way on fountains. Now, water features are something that is completely different than a fountain. And there's, you can do like a small water feature with a buried basin of water that you can put a basalt stone or a urn or bubbling, anything you could really think of that you could put on top. The most common that we do are the basalt spires. They're like a column of rock with a hole drilled in the middle, and the water bubbles out, and it bubbles down into a large basin that's buried underground and covered with rock. And those basins generally hold anywhere from 75 gallons to 90 gallons of water. So whole totally different deal than a fountain that might hold 3 or 4 gallons of water. And, also the basins have a door, so you can, move the rock aside, and it's like this big, I don't know, maybe 1 foot by 8 inches. You could actually open up, and you can just put both hands in there. You can put a decent sized pump. Look for pumps that have 3-year, 5-year warranties, so they're going to go at least that long. And in some cases, they go a lot longer. And if you cover that basin with rock, very little leaves and litter and, debris can actually get into the water. So that's the first type of water feature is, we can even call it, like I call them fountainscapes, because they're not fountains. They're water features that hold a lot of water. The basin's buried underground, and you put some sort of decorative stone or urn or something on top and have it just bubble. And what's kind of really cool about them, it looks like it's bubbling into the rock because you cover that basin with rock and you can't see it. So that would be one type. The second type of water feature could be like a natural stream. and it does not have to have a pond. So we can do what's called a pondless water feature, which is like a natural running stream where you actually use a streamliner. It's very similar to a pond. Once you go up to that level, you're kind of in pond world, and we're going to talk about ponds in a second here. But that is a what they call pondless waterfalls, we call them, and you basically use a lot of the same parts as you would a pond, larger pumps, liners, and you actually dig a big hole and you line the hole and you create your own basin, and they can hold 300 to 500 gallons of water and something like that. And pretty low maintenance. There's no fish, no ecosystem, and the look is insane. It's like, oh my gosh, you have a little babbling creek running through your yard, and it's, price wise too, it jumps up from the fountainscapes being the lesser expensive. Then you've got the pondless waterfall, which the price jumps up a little bit, and then the ultimate is this koi pond, with a natural running stream, and then you've just, really, that's the ultimate water feature. So, but with going back to the pondless water feature, you can really do something pretty decent and nice. And with all the technology and everything these days, with pumps have gotten much more efficient. You can actually even get a what they call a variable pump, and you can control the speed of the pump, which also controls how much electricity it uses. Another big difference between the koi pond and just the pondless waterfall with no pond is you can turn it off. You don't have to worry about fish. You don't have to worry about oxygenating of the water running. You can just run it, for a few hours. If you're at work all day, leave it off. You come home, you can turn it on. Maybe you don't want it, running while you're asleep. You can turn it off at night. And koi pond's a little different. You're going to really get where the pump's got to be running the majority of the time. So now let's jump into ponds. If you decide to go that way, you need a much bigger space. It's a much bigger commitment to it. And the whole idea behind the fish, and I tell people this really, truly, honestly, I want you to think about if you're going to do a pond and have koi, which are just, they're incredible to look at and so gorgeous, the fish themselves. Do it because you love koi. You want koi fish, and you don't know where am I going to put my koi that I love? You have to have a pond. And I think that's really, really, you're the right customer for a pond. You're the right, person for that type of water feature. If maybe you have fish tanks in your house and you love fish and you want to have an outdoor experience with fish and you want to really get koi, you have to have a koi pond. There's no other way to have koi. So you inadvertently get a gorgeous, amazing water feature when you put in a house for your koi. And so if you're looking at it that way, then you're going to have a great experience with a koi pond. If you just want that water feature experience and you're like, well, why not get some koi too? Then don't do it, because you're really not going to have a good experience in the long run, because you're going to be thinking, oh my gosh, I have to clean it out. We're getting, algae. We get this ecosystem of the water. How many fish per gallon can you have? And the fish get sick sometimes, just like any pet, And so if you love them and you have to have them, then it's not going to be a high maintenance thing, going out there feeding the koi, putting up things so that raccoons and egrets or, birds don't come in and get any kind of creature come in and get the fish. So there's a lot to it, and it can be considered high maintenance in a low maintenance world. But it's kind of like rose bushes too. It seems like so you tell somebody, I'm going to put a rose garden in, like, oh my gosh, that sounds like nothing but work. But if you love roses, you love being out there, you love taking care of them, it's not really work anymore. It's more like therapy, and you love it. You're putting in the rose garden so you can have something to go out and do and enjoy. And that's the same with koi. They're so amazing. When you see it, everybody, I don't know how you wouldn't love looking at it and being near a koi pond. I go eat at the restaurant over there in Casmalia, and I see their koi pond, and the fish are huge. They've just been in there for a long time, and it's so gorgeous and soothing to watch the fish and how beautiful they are. You can't say it doesn't look awesome. It's just that, do I want to do that at my house? Do I want to be the guy responsible for taking care of that? No, I don't have a koi pond at my house, but the idea of it's nice. So just understand that when you get into it. Now, what would be the pluses and minuses of the water feature, of having one or not having one? And so if you think about the sounds that are happening at your house, do you have traffic noise? Can you hear dogs barking, or maybe the neighbors, or you can hear conversations of people chatting, or, just if you think about what the sound of your yard is, it's really another element. I mean, landscaping is very visual, and to get another sense involved, your ears and having the sound, it's like when you walk to a nursery. I've experienced this a lot, and you go in there, it's a retail type setting, and they have all the fountains going, and you hear that peaceful, that sound. It just kind of blocks the sound of the cars and hustle and bustle of life, and it just puts me personally in a different space, in a better mood. So that is by far the hugest plus, is the sound and the relaxing atmosphere of it. Putting a light underwater and getting that shimmer, like a swimming pool, effect. It makes it feel really cool. And so the peacefulness, sound blocking of unwanted sounds, and really adding that special feature are the major positives. The only negative I can think of is if you have a bad experience, or if you don't have you bought a cheap pump, or you used a fountain that you were frustrated with, it's full of leaves all the time, and to clean it out. I had a fountain at my house when we moved in, and it would run for about a day, and it would either run out of water, or there would be so much leaves and sediment and everything in there within a week. I had to clean it out like every week, and then I had to add water literally every day or every other day if I wanted to run it. And it was, it splashed, and it just, I don't know, it wasn't a good design. And so I thought, that's not a good experience for water feature. Now, again, not all fountains are created equal. If you can find a fountain that has a huge reservoir of water, it's substantial enough, you can get a decent sized pump. I've always found them really hard to get to with my hands, and I've put a lot of them together, and I've had, fountains over the years, and trying to put the little tube up in there. It's just, so anyway, the water features pluses are huge. The minuses might be the maintenance of it, upkeep of it, cleaning it out. And so that's what today's show is about, kind of getting around that and finding out what type of water feature would be good for you. What's the least amount of maintenance that you would want to do, or if you are, the koi fish, guy, or you can even have someone come out and take care of it. If you can figure out a way to have that and have it maintained so that it doesn't own you and take over on your life. So I want you to think about your yard like photography or art, and really try to think of it in terms of, how would this look if I were taking a picture of this area? And I think that would really kind of helps, because would you leave, the hose right there out, or would you move this, old chair, or the cushions are broken down, or, you have maybe a junk pile in the corner or something, and all those things that daily life brings, and I'm guilty of it as well. If you walk by it 100 times, taking the trash out or whatever, you don't see it anymore. But when it comes time to take your camera out, if you know me or don't know me, but I love photography. I love taking pictures, and I love that art form of understanding what things look like, what backgrounds look like. And really, if you were taking a shot, where would you put a person, you're out there, family, photo shoot, or, whatever the reason is, and you really look at that like a art, I'm going to frame this. What would you move out of the way? How would it look? Water features, you immediately are like, I am attracted to it, and I want to go over there, here, stand by the waterfall and take this shot, and so that's what we're really going for on a really nice landscaping that looks so good, and water features can make it picture perfect. When we come back, I want to talk about algae.
You're listening to Patio Side Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers on California's Central Coast. Here on 1240 AM and 99.5 FM, KSMA.
This show is brought to you by Airval Block. Concrete paving stones or pavers are not all created equal. Airval Block pavers are created from a dry mix of gravel, sand, cement, and color. With very little water used, they're super strong. They won't crack or fade. And to be an Airval Block paver, the gravel and sand come from right here on the Central Coast, supporting our local community. Airval Block is the only local manufacturer of concrete masonry products like pavers, mortarless retaining wall blocks. Airval Block products are high quality for peace of mind, and there are many colors to choose from. And if you're not sure which products you need or how to use them, you will always get expert advice from the staff at Airval Block. Products made on the Central Coast for the Central Coast. Visit their fully landscaped outdoor showroom to see the many ways you can use Airval Block products at number 1 Suburban Road in San Luis Obispo, or go online at airvalblock.com.
If you're thinking about installing a new paver patio or paver driveway, check out Chaparral Pavers online at ilovetocomehome.com. Serving the Central Coast since 2001, Chaparral Pavers will work with you to get it right and complete the job to your specifications, as customer service is king at Chaparral Pavers. Paver driveways are stylish and durable and guaranteed to never crack. If your old concrete driveway or entryway is a hazardous cracking mess, it's time to call Chaparral Pavers. Go to their website, ilovetocomehome.com. You'll find all the information you need. Check out photographs of past installations and reviews from Central Coast residents who have used Chaparral Pavers. And don't forget, all installations are guaranteed for the life of your home. So check out Chaparral Pavers online at ilovetocomehome.com. Chaparral Pavers, they'll make you love to come home. Now, back to Patio Side Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers on KSMA.
And we're back. Okay, we're talking about water features, fountainscapes, pondless waterfalls, koi ponds, and all that fun stuff, and the atmosphere that it brings. And you know, I was kind of describing the whole photographic aspect of art. You know, if you were to do a painting of your yard and you were going to paint something in and have it look beautiful, I think a water feature is, just comes to mind. And why not have your yard feel like that when you come home? And that's what, I love to come home. So I did want to talk about a little bit about maintenance, because nothing is going to be 100% maintenance free. And I want to talk a little bit about algae and what happens when it gets into a water feature and what to do about it, how to treat the water. So maintenance on the fountainscapes, very simple, pretty easy. I'm not saying things can't go wrong, because they can, but for the most part, they're pretty simple to do. You get that basin that's underground, like what we talked about, cover it with rock, and you put your basalt stone on there or some sort of art piece. Or I had this twisted column that I found in Arroyo Grande one time, and it had a hole drilled out of the middle, and it even had a LED light buried in the hole. So when the water came up and bubbled over the twisted column, it made a nice colored light. Now, it got algae on it, and that's like one of the most maintenance-free. I was surprised when the client called me and said, "Oh, the thing's full of algae, and it seems like the pump's clogged." And I said, "Well, okay, I'll come out here and we'll go take a look at it." So I get over there, and it is bird city. Oh my gosh, the birds were going nuts. She had the feeders out, and they loved the water. That's the thing. I think if you want to attract wildlife into your yard, people ask me, what plant should I plant, to attract, the birds and the butterflies and the hummingbirds. And the best thing I could tell you is actually a source of water for them. And it's even beyond, like, because a lot of people do feed birds with bird seed, and a lot of plants do attract, the wildlife in, but nothing does it more than water, because there could not be a water source for miles in some cases for birds. And especially during drought conditions, extremely important until you'll get a lot. And we do have a lot of gorgeous birds in here on the Central Coast. And you talk about photographic opportunities. So that is, but they do leave a mess too. And I think that's what was happening in the case here, where there was so much, ammonia and nitrates and the things that come with bird poop in the water, that it was causing this major algae bloom, and there was this green algae all hanging down the whole thing. And so what I recommended was, which I did, was change the water immediately. There's no fish, there's no ecosystem that needs to be there. So I just took 100% water change, got rid of all the water, pumped it out, pressure washed the column and the rocks, even the rocks, and it was like stuck onto the rocks at the base. So I pulled them all out. It is pretty rare. I mean, that I have not heard of that very much at all. And sometimes a little bit of black will get on there, or it seemed like molds and things from things staying wet all the time, but nothing like what I had seen here. And that was the only really thing I could attribute it to, was just the birds, and it was heat too. It was really hot this year. We had a lot of hot days. There was just some weird combination. And so anyway, it's regular maintenance on them. I would change the water at least once a year and just clean the filter out on the pump. Like I said, with those basins, it's really easy to get to. And if you get a 3-year, 5-year warranty pump, decent size, you'll get decent amount of water flow and good sound, but you also get a nice sponge filter or some sort of filtration on the pump that will need to be cleaned out periodically. Again, kind of depending on if there's a lot of leaf litter or a lot of dirt being blown in there, or if the birds are doing a number on the water feature. But it's all relative. I mean, she has this gorgeous water feature with beautiful birds, and so I think because of the bird seed, maybe that would be the lesson, is don't attract them so much. Let them come in naturally and just be there, and maybe it won't be so much. Now, there is a product called EcoBlast, which is an algicide that's safe for fish, so it's certainly safe for birds. And that's a thing. I really, if you're doing any kind of algae control, you don't want to hurt the wildlife. Barley straw can be a natural algicide and also helps keep the water clear. There's a device that's called the Ion Gen that Aquascapes sells online, or you can get it. And that's kind of more for ponds, I think, and you really want to think a lot about it with a pond, because ponds the whole thing can fill with string algae, and it's a horrible experience. So if you do get into ponds, that would be the highest maintenance, obviously. And it's, again, I think if you have fish tanks, you've got to do certain water changes and clean it out and look out for algae. And the same with the pondless waterfalls. A little bit of algae could get in there. Some of it looks kind of good to me and natural. And it's Mother Nature's way of balancing the water. It's kind of letting something not get out of balance, and the algae grows for a reason. So a lot of times it's because it has a lot of fertilizer from either the koi fish or birds, or it's got, a lot of hot sun, and it's trying, it's going to balance that water out to keep it safe for frogs. And that's another thing. Frogs, oh my gosh, you're going to get the sound of frogs, and they're just around, and it just brings the birds, everything. If you don't have a water feature, consider it, and think about, if you do have one, maybe it's not running, you want to get it up and going again, to make your yard picturesque for yourself, and coming home and every day just thinking about keeping the kind of clutter out and away, and kind of clean things up, and really have your home be that special place that it could be, and a water feature fits right in with that. So thank you. Always remember, you can catch us on Facebook, Chaparral Pavers. Put your question in there, and we can get your topic answered on this radio show. All right, we'll see you next week. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.
This has been Patio Side Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers. Go to ilovetoComeHome.com to find out more, or call 805-588-8888. 888-646-6917. And be sure and tune in next week at this same time for Patio Side Chat here on KSMA.